Lucille Ball is remembered by millions as the brilliant comedian who made America laugh. But behind the unforgettable smile and flawless comic timing was a woman whose greatest achievement may have happened far away from the television cameras, long before Hollywood began recognizing women as powerful business leaders. Lucille Ball made a decision that would permanently change the television industry and quietly build one of the most valuable entertainment legacies in history. Most people know I Love Lucy as one of television's greatest sitcoms. Few realized that the show's enormous financial success was rooted in a business agreement that almost nobody appreciated at the time. During the early planning of the series, Lucille Ball and her husband, Ball-Arnaz, negotiated for ownership of the filmed episodes rather than allowing the network to keep complete control. What seemed like an unimportant detail in the early 1950s eventually became one of the smartest deals ever made in television history. At the time, television executives believed programs had little value after they aired. Once an episode was broadcast, they assumed its commercial life was over. Because of that belief, the filmed episodes were considered far less valuable than they would become in later decades. Ball and Arnaz accepted lower compensation in exchange for producing the series on high-quality film in Hollywood, while retaining important ownership rights that would later generate extraordinary long-term value. No one could have predicted how dramatically television would evolve. As reruns became common and syndication expanded across the country and eventually around the world, I Love Lucy continued earning revenue year after year. The decision that once seemed insignificant transformed into one of the most influential business moves in entertainment history, proving that Lucille Ball possessed remarkable instincts not only as a performer, but also as an entrepreneur. That success did not arrive overnight. Before becoming America's favorite television star, Lucille Ball spent decades fighting for opportunities that rarely came easily. She was born on August 6, 1911, in Jamestown, New York, and experienced hardship almost from the beginning of her life. Her father died when she was only 3 years old, forcing the family into difficult financial circumstances and leaving her childhood marked by uncertainty and sacrifice. Raised for much of her early life by her grandparents while her mother worked, Lucille learned independence at an unusually young age. Her grandfather encouraged her imagination and introduced her to live performances, helping spark the passion for entertainment that would eventually define her future. Even then, however, success seemed incredibly distant. As a teenager, she traveled to New York hoping to become an actress. Instead of encouragement, she received criticism. Teachers questioned her talent and suggested she pursue another path. Many aspiring performers would have accepted that judgment and returned home. Lucille Ball refused. She stayed, found work wherever she could, modeled under a stage name, and slowly earned small roles in Hollywood productions. Throughout the 1930s, she appeared in dozens of films, often with little recognition. She became known as a dependable contract actress, but true stardom remained just out of reach. Year after year, she continued working, improving, and refusing to abandon the dream that so many believed she would never achieve. Her breakthrough finally came through radio with My Favorite Husband, where audiences discovered the natural comic talent that Hollywood had overlooked for years. Around the same time, her marriage to Ball-Arnaz would lead to a partnership unlike anything television had seen before. Together they would not only create one of the greatest sitcoms ever produced, but also reshape the business of television in ways that executives would spend decades trying to understand. The opportunity that would transform Lucille Ball's life arrived when CBS decided to adapt her successful radio comedy for television. Network executives believed the transition would be simple. They envisioned a live program produced in New York, following the standard television model of the early 1950s. To them, it seemed like the obvious choice. Lucille Ball disagreed. Her reasons were both personal and professional. She and Ball-Arnaz had built their lives in California, and after years of spending long periods apart because of work, they wanted to remain together. Moving to New York for a live television series would once again separate them, placing additional strain on a marriage that had already faced its share of challenges. She also believed television comedy deserved better production quality than live broadcasting could provide. Having spent years working in motion pictures, Ball understood the advantages of filming on 35mm. A film production allowed scenes to be refined, performances to be polished, and episodes to remain preserved long after their original broadcast. She believed audiences would notice the difference. Ball-Arnaz proposed an alternative that many considered risky. Instead of producing the show live in New York, they suggested filming it in Hollywood before a live studio audience using professional motion picture cameras. The approach would cost considerably more than CBS wanted to spend. The network refused to cover the additional expense. Rather than abandoning the idea, Ball and Arnaz offered a compromise. They agreed to accept lower salaries and absorb much of the extra production costs themselves. In return, their production company, Lucille Productions, would retain important ownership rights connected to the filmed episodes. CBS accepted the proposal. At the time, few executives considered the arrangement significant. Television was still a young industry, and most believed programs had value only during their original broadcast. Once an episode aired, they assumed its commercial life was finished. History proved otherwise. When I Love Lucy premiered in October 1951, it became an immediate sensation. Week after week, millions of families gathered around their television sets to watch Lucy Ricardo's hilarious schemes, Ricky's growing frustration, and the unforgettable chemistry shared by the entire cast. The ratings climbed to extraordinary levels. Within only a few seasons, I Love Lucy had become the most watched television program in America. Its popularity crossed generations, and audiences couldn't get enough. Yet the show's greatest financial success was still years away. As television ownership expanded across the country, local stations needed programming to fill their schedules. Rather than producing entirely new content, many began purchasing rights to broadcast older episodes. The rerun was born because I Love Lucy had been filmed instead of broadcast only live. Every episode remained in pristine condition and could be shown again and again. Stations across America licensed the series, followed by broadcasters around the world. Each new agreement generated additional revenue. What once appeared to be an ordinary business decision became one of the most profitable television investments ever made. The filmed library continued producing income long after production had ended, creating a model that virtually every successful television series would eventually follow. The impact reached far beyond Lucille Ball herself. Networks, producers, and studios began recognizing that television episodes were not disposable entertainment. They were valuable assets capable of earning money for decades. Entire business strategies changed because of lessons learned from I Love Lucy. The series remained #1 throughout its original run, earned numerous awards, and established standards that future sitcoms would imitate for generations. More importantly, it proved that Lucille Ball's instincts extended far beyond acting. She wasn't simply making people laugh, she was helping invent the modern television business. Lucille Ball's true legacy was never measured only by awards, ratings, or the fortune she accumulated. It was measured by the courage to trust her instincts when others doubted her, the determination to build opportunities instead of waiting for them, and the business decisions that forever changed the television industry. Although parts of her estate eventually passed beyond the Ball-Arnaz family, the achievements that made her extraordinary could never be inherited, sold, or lost. Every episode of I Love Lucy, every groundbreaking decision at Lucille, and every barrier she broke for women in Hollywood continues to inspire generations of performers and entrepreneurs alike. Today, more than 7 decades after I Love Lucy first premiered, Lucille Ball remains far more than a beloved television icon. She stands as one of entertainment's greatest pioneers, a woman who transformed setbacks into success and left an influence that reaches far beyond comedy. Her story reminds us that true wealth is not only measured in dollars, but in the lives we change and the legacy we leave behind. if you enjoyed discovering the remarkable story behind Lucille Ball's life and legacy. Don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe, and join us for more unforgettable stories about the legends who shaped Hollywood history, even after everything that was divided, sold, inherited, or lost. One truth remains impossible to erase. Lucille Ball didn't just create one of the greatest sitcoms in television. History she changed the business of television forever. She proved that creative talent and business brilliance could exist in the same person, long before Hollywood was willing to acknowledge it. Her influence can still be seen in every syndicated television series, every production company founded by a performer, and every woman who steps into a leadership role in the entertainment industry.